Hello everyone, Darcenovia once again, and we're getting into the next two books of the New Jedi Order series, which is the Edge of Victory duology. They're both written by Greg Kyles. I think I'm pronouncing that name right. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, these two books are essentially building up to the next book in the series, Star by Star, which I'll be talking about in the next video. In these two books, things aren't looking too great for the Jedi. And if you've read the book Recovery, it explains certain things that Leia and Han are doing. But they don't get into that until the second book of the duology, called, Rebirth. This duology mostly focused on Anakin Solo. At this point, it was obvious the writers in this series were writing Anakin Solo as one of the leading heroes of this series, which it does make sense that he was supposed to be one of the leading characters, but I will be talking about that when I talk about the book Star by Star on why that is. Essentially, the first half of the duology deals with Anakin Solo saving his friend Tahiri. If you've read the Young Jedi Knight books, you'd be familiar with her. I haven't read them. She's basically Anakin's best friend. He's like 2 years older than her, and at this point, the first half basically is Anakin Solo's adventures on Yavin 4. So this is pretty much an Anakin Solo book. Luke is in this book, but barely. This is essentially about Anakin Solo and a Yuuzhan Vong that helps him. Why does he do that? You're going to have to find out to yourself. You even get a glimpse on more of the Yuuzhan Vong culture and how there's not all the Yuuzhan Vong agree with each other when it comes to their gods. There's some that would be considered atheists. And it actually explains more about the culture, about the Yuuzhan Vong, and their overlord, which just does not make an appearance. He makes his first appearance in the end of the second book of the duology, Rebirth. In Conquest, what happens in this book? Anakin is off to save his best friend Tahiri from a terrible future that he sees, a vision. What happens to her? Well, I'm gonna bring this up because I'm most likely it's gonna be important later on. The Yuuzhan Vong, she becomes a prisoner and she's implanted with the Yuuzhan Vong language, and she has some of their way of thinking in her there as well. Which this is gonna be important in later books of the EU. So, I'm only going to mention that little spoiler because I'm going to be talking about it later. And not to mention, there's a lot of stuff happens in this duology. And this deals more with everyone else in the duology. Yeah, there's still a lot of Anakin, Solo, and Cornhorn actually finally makes an appearance in here. His first since the Dark Tide duology. It's been a while since we've seen Cornhorn. There's also, despite what the cover looks, Luke and Moore are barely in here. They're in a few chapters here and there. Moore's disease is about to basically almost kills her, and in this book, but Luke ends up saving her at the end, which, if you read later in the EU. What's big about this book? Well, I'm not gonna get too much into this one, but because there'll be spoilers in here, and if you're reading this, essentially what happens in this one, you see what Han and Leia are doing, and Jason, because Jason, if you've read Balance Point, I think I forgot to mention this in my Balance Point review, is the most wanted Jedi in the galaxy. his bounty is really high, so he's with his parents. And amongst other things that happen in here, you also, you also see the birth of a character that's going to play a role in the Legacy of the Force series and Fate of the Jedi. Ben Skywalker. This also builds up to what's going to happen in the next book. Everything up until now, the past few books have been a build up to the book star by star. And not to mention, there's another plot point which is important. Kip Darren finds a Yuuzhan Vong super weapon, or does he find a super weapon? I'm not going to reveal what it really is. So they can do some damage to Yuuzhan Vong. And this is probably the first book they actually get a victory, which is saying something. The Yuuzhan Vong seem to be freaking insanely. They're seem like they're invincible, but in the second book in the series, it reveals that it's not so. They are going through some troubles as well. They're not nearly as powerful as you would think. But the thing I like about this book is the interactions between the family members of the Solos and the Skywalkers. I know I mentioned this in Vector Prime, but I enjoy these moments because you get to see them interact each other like a family. And this is one of the few occasions where Anakin actually meets his cousin Ben. He never really gets to know his cousin, really. Why? Well, a certain event happens in the next book in the series is the reason for that. Now, I told you about a brief synopsis of this. What do I think of the duology? I think they're great. I think I enjoyed these far more than the Dark Eclipse duology. Origin of Chaos, actually, duology. It was betterly paced. A lot of things happened. And the tragedy of a certain character's death is enriched because of these two books. Of course, why would you be reading the next book in the series if you haven't read the others? This is what makes the new Jedi Order series so great. I don't understand why it gets a lot of flack. You see Jedi struggling like human beings. I love the new Jedi Order Jedi. I love because they're not. They struggle like human beings, and this actually is real war here. And it's unfortunate that I'm not going to get into a rant about Disney here, but Disney's new canon, really, I don't think they're going to do this with the Jedi. But let's not talk about that. The Jedi, even Luke Skywalker goes through his own struggles. And this book also has a character being born, Ben Skywalker, who won't be playing a role into the Legacy of the Force series. Not to mention, you get to learn more about the Yuuzhan Vong in this book, but you learn even more about them than you did in the others, which is why the first book in the series, Conquest, you actually see a lot of the Yuuzhan Vong. You actually learn about the Yuuzhan Vong. We still don't know why you can't feel them through the Force. I'm pretty sure that's going to be explained at some point towards the end of the series. Now that I'm almost halfway through this series, The New Jedi Order, I will gladly give these books 4 out of 5 stars. I mean, I think these are great. I think they're as great as the other books in the series. In fact, I haven't really read a bad book in this series yet. Now, my friends, the next book in this series is probably one of my last reviews of the year. Star by Star by Troy Denning. Lots of shit's gonna happen in here, And next time we in this show, when we talk about Star Wars, shit will have hit the fan. May the Force be with you, everyone. And if you had a happy Thanksgiving, yep, that too. Anyway, tell me what you think below. May the Force be with you.